Now, Jacob, why would they be upset at the mariner? What did he do?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. In the last lesson we talked about this. Who or what did he shoot?
The albatross.
Yes, and because, according to the story, because he shot the albatross, it's a curse has fallen upon them. So they think, man, we never would have died if you hadn't killed this albatross, because obviously a curse has come upon us. All right, keep going, Connor.
4 times 50 living men.
How many men would that be, class? 4 times 50?
20.
200. 200. Not 20, yes. 200. All right, keep going.
And I heard no sigh nor groan. With heavy thump, a lifeless lump, they dropped down one by one.
Can you imagine the picture that's happening here? Very great description by Coleridge. So these men have been taken over by death. So without a sigh, without a groan, one by one, they drop. And you get the good description there. He says they drop down with a lifeless lump, drop down one by one. Can you imagine the mariner just watching all of a sudden, these men giving him this horrible look of sort of cursing him with their eyes. And then they drop down dead. And then they drop down dead. Then they drop down dead. One by one, all 200 of them dropping down dead. You can imagine the feeling that's going through his mind right now. All right, keep going.
The souls did from their bodies fly. They fled to bliss or woe. And every soul it passed me by, like the whiz of my crossbow.
Good, before you turn the page, mark that excellent simile that Coleridge used on that last line there. Every soul as it passed me by like the whiz of my crossbow. Now, there's a great description here because you get the picture of a whiz of a crossbow, the soul passing by, boom, going by just like the sound a crossbow makes as it flies. Nowhere he says either bliss or woe, heaven or hell. But why is it also significant that Coleridge chose the simile of the whiz of a crossbow? Any ideas? What happened with the crossbow earlier, Erica?
He shot the bird.
Right, so he's imagining this whiz of the crossbow. He used the crossbow to kill the bird. And now, just like that same whiz, these souls are passing by. And as each one drops dead and their soul whizzes by, he's thinking in his mind, it's my fault that these men are dying. All right, flip the page. Now, at this point, on page 260, we come to part 4. At this point, the wedding guest is speaking. Wedding guest, you're hearing the story, and before you read your lines, what are you thinking?
I'm scared.
Yes, he's very scared. He's thinking, man, this is the most frightening story I've heard. Here I was going to come to this nice wedding, and now the bride is mad at me. She turned all red because I'm listening to the story, and now I'm wishing I hadn't. I heard the story, and I'm scared. So go ahead and read your lines for us.
I fear thee, ancient mariner. I fear thy skinny hand, and thou art long and lank and brown, as is the ribed sea hand.
And the next 2 lines are yours as well.
I fear thee and thy glittering eye, and thy skinny hand so brown.
Right, so yes, that's the end of your lines there. So he said, I'm very scared of you, ancient mariner. I'm scared to death of you. And the ancient mariner says what?
Fear not, thou wedding guest. This body drops not down.
So did the mariner die, class? No, even though all the crew died, he didn't die. Keep going.
Alone, all alone. Alone on a wide, wide sea.
Notice the great writing there. He says alone about 4 times in those 2 lines there, really emphasizing the fact for emphasis that he was all alone with 200 dead bodies around him on this open sea. Keep going.
And never a saint took pity on my soul in agony. The many men, so beautiful, and they all dead did lie.
Yeah, I find it a little odd they called the dead men beautiful, but anyway, we'll keep going there.
And 1,000 slimy things lived on, and so did I.
Yeah, so imagine what's happening here. I'm not trying to be too gross here, but you get 200 dead men around him, and with dead men attract maybe slimy things, maggots, who knows what, trying to eat their corpses or whatever may happen. And so he's all alone with these dead men and all these gross, slimy things all around him. Not only on the boat, but also on the sea as well. There might be slimy things, dead things in the sea as well. Keep going.
I looked upon the rotting deck and drew my eyes away. I looked upon the rotting deck.
Yeah, you looked upon the rotting sea first.
See? And there the dead man lay.
It's all right. When you get old, you forget what happens. Yeah, keep going.
I looked to heaven and tried to pray, but or ever prayer had gushed, and wicked whisper came and made my heart as dry as dust.
Yes, notice what happens here. He says, normally when I try to pray to heaven, my prayers just gush forth. I'm able to pray whatever I want. But at this point, he has so much guilt and turmoil in his life. He tries to pray. Nothing comes out. He says, my heart was as dry as dust. I couldn't really get any prayers out. Keep going.
I closed my lids.
My eyelids, yes.
and kept them closed, and the balls like pulses beat.
Yes, he's trying to keep his eyes closed, but his eyeballs just keep pulsing out, and he really can't avoid looking. Keep going.
For the sky and the sea and the sea and the sky, like a load on my weary eye, and the dead were at my feet. The cold sweat melted from their limbs, nor rot nor reek did they. The look with which they looked on me had never passed away.
Notice the description here. So these men are dead, but they're not starting to rot or stink, which is a little odd, and we'll talk about why in a second, but they're not starting to rot or sink. But I get the idea here by reading this, that when they died with their eyes open, and so that's part of the curse, that when they're sitting there dead, they're looking at him with this glare in their eyes, like, why did you do this to us? So and we see the next stanza here, it's about a week that these men are dead, that they're staring at him. So for a full week, he's walking around the ship, and he says the look on their faces, I will never be able to get out of my mind. So every once in a while, you might see something in your life that you think, wow, I'll never be able to get that horrible image out of my mind. And that's what's happening here. He says, I won't be able to get it out of my mind. Keep going.
An orphan's curse would drag to hell a spirit from on high. But oh, more horrible than is a curse in a dead man's eye.
Yes, underline those two lines as lines to know. But oh, more horrible than that is a curse in a dead man's eye. He goes, the worst curse possible is to have a dead man lying dead with his eyes open, looking at you, sort of cursing you with his eyes. Keep going.
7 days, 7 nights, I saw that curse, and yet I could not die.
Right, he almost wishes he had died instead of looking at that curse for a week. Keep going.
The moving moon went up the sky, and nowhere did abide. Softly she was going up, and a star or two beside. Her beams bemocked the sultry main, like April hoarfrost spread. But where the ship's huge shadow lay, the charmed water burnt alway, and still awful red. But beyond the shadow of the ship, I watched the water snakes. They moved in track of shining white, and when they reared, the elfish light fell off in hoary flakes. Within the shadow of the ship, I watched their rich attire. Blue, glossy green, and velvet black, they coiled and swam with every track, was a flash of golden fire. Oh, happy living things, no tongue their beauty might declare. A spring of love gushed from my heart, and I blessed them unaware.
Underline those two lines. Those are key lines here. It's almost a turning point right here in the work. Remember, why did he get in trouble before, Jacob? He didn't show any love to the
crew.
To the albatross. Yes, he killed the albatross. This story has the idea of the love that you should have for other creatures. So he got in trouble, he got cursed because he didn't love the albatross, he killed it. Now, a spring of love is going up for these sea creatures. So unawares, he's starting to love these creatures. Connor, read the last 6 lines there.
Sure, my kind saint took pity on me, and I blessed them unaware. The self-same moment I could pray, and from my neck so free, the albatross fell off, and sank like lead into the sea.
Thank you. You two can have a seat. Make sure you know those lines there. The minute that he started to show love for those sea creatures was when the curse began to be lifted and the albatross sank from his neck, came off his neck, and sank into the sea. So it's really showing here, once again, we're seeing the theme working out of the love that we should have for all creatures.